midnight on August 1st, right around a year ago, then Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Rybak presided over Minnesota's first same-sex marriage ceremonies. Mike McEntee was live streaming the ceremonies to the Uptake subscribers and to MSNBC from City Hall.
And Margaret and Kathy, by the power now finally vested in me.
Earlier that evening, he and videographer Bill Sorm were doing same at a pre-wedding celebrations at the Wild Roast restaurant. Less than a year before, a Republican-backed ballot question that would have banned same-sex marriage in Minnesota was defeated by voters on November 6, 2012. The state and the nation were shocked, and that's the subject of a new documentary being produced by Mike McEntee. Prior to the Uptake, and for 13 years, Mike ran Hubbard Broadcasting's all-news channel on DirecTV. Mike, welcome to our table.
Tim, good to be here.
Mike, I know that you're an AM 50 guest and political analyst, and I'm also aware that you're the co-founder and executive producer of The Uptake. Before we get into the documentary, tell me a little bit more about The Uptake, would you please?
Well, The Uptake's been around since about 2007, and we helped live stream a lot of what was going on outside the Republican National Convention here in St. Paul, which was very surprising to the media that there was actually protests going on because they're all locked inside the Civic Center. But we were probably best known for live streaming the Al Franken, Norm Coleman recount. We showed every vote being recounted and then everything that happened.
I actually turned into that. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. We had 10,000 people watching, nice. And nobody had done that before on the internet.
So let's go to the documentary. Now, this is about how Minnesota became a marriage equality state. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What was the impetus behind putting together a document?
Well, because I thought it was such a great story. I mean, first off, 29 states in a row had somehow, said that same-sex marriage was going to be illegal or unconstitutional, and we got to Minnesota, and it looked very dark. This constitutional amendment was going to pass, and suddenly somebody figured out how to turn this thing around, and not only did it not pass, but a couple months later, we made same-sex marriage legal in Minnesota. That's a big turn. I wanted to show what happened and who did it.
Well, how did you do that? How did you decide what to incorporate into this documentary?
Well, luckily enough, we had been covering this in the legislature, so we had all the video of everything that happened there. That's where a lot of it was fought about. But we also had video that we'd shot along the way because we've been covering this at the Uptake for like the last 3 years. Then we went back and interviewed a lot of the volunteers and the leaders of this movement and how they made it happen. Some of the stories are incredibly touching, and some of the politics and some of the interesting groundwork that came out of that, how they actually got stuff done, very, very interesting. Well, I think the most interesting stories in the documentary are about how people who were actually on the front lines were impacted by this, how they changed, not just the people they were calling, but impacted themselves, including a pair of two women who they thought they were doing this for other people, but they found out that this was actually for them.
These are people that are, making calls or going door to door? What are they doing to influence their friends and neighbors?
Well, they're doing just that. They're going door to door. They're talking to the people they know, their relatives first probably, and then their friends. But they're also then sitting in phone banks and making calls night after night, sometimes to the very same people, and following up just to make sure that people are moving a little bit on this issue.
Do you have any sense as to how many people actually actively participated in the defeat of the amendment?
There were, I think, by estimates of several thousand, maybe even 10,000 volunteers at one point.
Now, is this going to extend into some of the political ramifications of the passage of the amendment?
It will talk about, how this affected, people staying or not staying in the legislature, but I think the real focus is on what happened in that short amount of time during the turnaround. And some of it was very interesting on what we found out about how elections are won or lost. Because this polled incredibly badly in Minnesota, meaning it was going to pass, and somehow that changed, and the politics that got that done is what this movie's about.
Is it fair to say it's sort of shot from the inside of the events that are taking place?
Well, some of it is, especially on election night when they got the news that they had won. There's a camera there that captures the excitement of what happened, but we get the inside story from all the people who financed this, as well as the people who were out there on the front lines.
So where is the documentary at this point in time? Is it ready to be shown?
No, it's not. We've been showing a few clips. We took it to Netroots. We got a good reception, some of the clips we showed. It's one of those things where we have literally hundreds of hours of video that need to be kind of winnowed down along with the new stuff that we've put together. And so it's taking some time, and we're hoping to have it done here probably by the end of the year.
How are you going to roll it out?
Well, first off, we know we want to go to the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival. We've been invited to show it there, but we're also going to do the film festival circuit, and eventually we want it to be seen on national television, probably on Free Speech TV.
Now, I would think that a documentary of this sort would contain a lot of lessons that would be of interest to social and political activists. Am I right in that perception?
Oh, you certainly are, because this was something that, there was some incredible research done after Proposition 8 that happened in California. This is what basically made same-sex marriage illegal in California. And the people who did the research on that found that you have to frame things in a way that are within other people's values to get them to change their mind. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to have a one-to-one conversation with them. And so those two things really changed how this campaign was run. Every other campaign that's been on this issue has had a lot of money, has outspent the other side, outspent the conservatives, but they didn't have this, and that's what made the difference.
Are there similar amendments on ballots coming up across the country that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, and actually since this happened in Minnesota, this has really moved into the courts now. It's become a court issue since the Supreme Court ruled on DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, and that has kind of set off a cascade of rulings of the various states. So I think the conservatives see that they're on the losing side of this thing. I don't think they want to make it a ballot issue right now because opinion has turned.
Well, it sounds to me like it's a daunting enterprise, but well under control, and I look forward to its release. Mike, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Democratic Visions is independently handcrafted by lefty Southwest Suburban volunteers for the entire metro region.